Nate Diaz responds to Conor McGregor after the Notorious says he's going to smash his jaw. The rivalry between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz is growing every day. After the fighters announced that the trilogy could happen, hostilities between the two pros escalated. Recently, McGregor told Diaz via social media that he would break his jaw. In response, Nate Diaz asked McGregor to stop acting and pretending he is still capable of fighting. Nate Diaz has been eager to settle his long-running feud with McGregor in the octagon and settle all of his outstanding debts with the Irishman.
Like the one thing back in the UFC to fight Conor?
I would love to fight him for the third time, and I've wanted to the whole time. And they put Conor on a big pedestal, and he made a lot of shit happen for a lot of different people in the fight game. Also, the UFC as a team they made all that happen, and there's no doubt in my mind that me and him are going to finish that off, and that's for sure one of my biggest goals.
Javier Mendez says Islam Makhachev is the best lightweight of all time and will dominate Charles Oliveira before facing Alexander Volkanovski. According to Javier Mendez, who has trained both Khabib and Islam, Makhachev is the best 155-pound fighter in the history of the sport. He has also stressed that most opponents underestimate Makhachev. However, as soon as they meet him in the octagon, they find out how wrong they are. For Mendez, Islam has the best defense and offense among all the fighters in the category, which makes him a complete athlete. Not content with this, Mendez has revealed that Islam is the only fighter to win rounds against Khabib, so the hype is justified. Should Islam beat Oliveira, Mendez believes Islam's next opponent will be Alexander Volkanovski because they both consider him worthy and respectable.
He is so well-rounded. I am going on record saying as the lightweight, he is hands down the number one of all time, best in all areas. Number one of all time, Islam Makhachev. Best defense, best striking, best everywhere. The best all-around athlete. Way back in the day, I thought it was Frank Shamrock that was the best well-around athlete, and he was in all divisions, but in the lightweight division, for me, the person that's the best rounded in every single area is Islam Makhachev.
As well wants to try and move up and get that title shot against Islam or Charles next. I wonder, do you have a preference over Conor or Alex next? Who do you think is the more interesting fight for you guys?
For me,
yeah.
The interesting one is Alex because he's on a tear and he's a great sportsman and he's going to keep it clean and I mean, if you're asking me what I would want, if as a sports person, okay, not as an entertainment, but if you're talking about sports, who deserves the right? 100% him, 100%. And he's a class act. He comes from a very reputable gym that's got class coaches, and you know what? They stick up for their team. I like what they represent. I like the way they stick up for each other. How they're like a band of brothers, just like my guys are a band of brothers. I respect them very, very high. Very, very high opinion of those guys. Very high.
What do you think about Javier Mendez's recent statements? Do you think Makhachev will dominate Oliveira? Let us know your answer in the comments. Dana White denies Mackenzie Dern's claims that Mark Zuckerberg rented out the entire UFC Vegas 61 event. Dana White denied rumors that Mark Zuckerberg rented out the entire UFC Apex for this weekend's UFC Vegas 61 event. After many fans and pundits were surprised to find out that UFC Apex would be closed to the public, Mackenzie Dern spoke out. In a recent interview, she claimed that Mark Zuckerberg, who is a big MMA fan, had rented out the entire venue. Quickly, Dana White launched his response, saying that those statements were a complete lie.
I know Mark Zuckerberg rented out the whole event, so I know he'll be there. But I don't know if it's just literally him and his wife, or if he's gonna have friends, if it's just it'll be a small party. I don't know, but from who wanted a main event with a crowd going to very, very private, I'm definitely okay, we're gonna be back, a sparring. It's a different type of adversity that you have to get through because you get distracted so easily, so any commentating or anything, you can, if you're not focused, your mind can get distracted, so I'm excited, and that just makes me more driven to put on a good show for, I mean, I know everyone's watching on TV, you know, but for Mark and whoever's going to be there, put on a show. If that's what they want to see as a show, then we're going to give a show.
Khamzat backs out of middleweight move, says he will face Colby Covington. Khamzat Chimaev has announced a sudden change in his career. After weighing 7.5 pounds over the weight limit needed to face Nate Diaz, the Chechen fighter announced on Twitter that he would fight at 185 pounds. But recently, Khamzat did a 180-degree turnaround on his statements by stating on Twitter that he would face Colby Covington. According to fans, the decision could be related to Khamzat's fear of facing Paulo Costa. However, others point out that Covington might be willing to move up in class to face Chimaev at 185 pounds. What do you think about this matchup? And would you like to see Chimaev face Covington? We'll be reading you in the comments. Alex Pereira mocks Israel Adesanya training methods ahead of their clash. Alex Pereira mocked middleweight champion Israel Adesanya after watching his recent training video in which the champion is dodging while a teammate threw tennis balls at him to improve his reflexes and defense. In response, Pereira decided to troll the champion by exchanging heavy blows with a teammate while balancing on a hoverboard. Finally, the title challenger claimed that there was nothing great about training with a ball and challenged Adesanya to do the same training he did. Chris Avila believes Nate Diaz can beat Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match. Former UFC and Bellator fighter Chris Avila believes Nate Diaz can hand Floyd Mayweather Jr. the first loss of his professional boxing career. Avila will become the first fighter to represent Diaz's Real Fight Incorporated after facing social media star Dr. Mike. During an interview with Inside Fighting, Chris Avila talked about Nate Diaz's switch to boxing and his chances of defeating one of the greatest fighters of the era. Check out the interview.
Yo, Chris, so there's a lot of rumored opponents for your friend Nate Diaz out there. They're saying Pacquiao, you know, Conor in the boxing ring. They're even saying Mayweather. My question is, do you think Nate can be the guy to hand Mayweather his first loss? Mayweather's 50-0. Like, do you think if Nate got in there, he could get the job done?
Yeah, I'm sure he could. Yeah.
In boxing? Because we all know Nate's a MMA, you know, great, one of the all-time legends, but Mayweather's never been beaten in the boxing ring, 50-0. Do you think?
Yeah, the only fights for him are the bigger names like that, Pacquiao, Mayweather,
right.
Canelo.
What do you think about Chris Avila's statements? Comment below if you agree with Avila. Dana White is not buying premature retirement from emotional Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is not having the best professional time of his life. After facing a string of consecutive decision losses to top 5 contenders, Derek Brunson and Martin Vettori, he has announced his plans to retire. The straw that broke the camel's back was his last fight against Khamzat Chimaev, where he suffered a crushing defeat. However, Dana White doesn't think Kevin Holland genuinely meant he wanted to retire. According to White, Holland is very emotional, so he believes he needs to take a break and relax before making a bad decision, blinded by his recent losses.
You know, I'm really close to this kid, and I like him a lot. And I think when you are competing in a sport like this and you've done the things that Kevin Holland has done, you know, he gets out of the fight with Brunson and realizes that he needs to work on his wrestling more. So he dives in, starts working on his wrestling, and I think when what happened to him happens to you. I don't know. I think you lay in bed and like, holy shit, how did that happen to me? And, you know, he's an emotional guy. So I think his emotions got the best of him. And just take some time, get back in the gym, and whatever he wants to do, obviously. I love the kid. Whatever he wants to do, he can do. But I think retiring it's a little too soon for him to retire.
The American Khabib calls out Khamzat Chimaev and Logan Paul. Bo Nikal crushed his last Contender Series opponent to sign a UFC contract. Not content with this victory, the American Khabib has said he would be willing to make his promotional debut against Khamzat Chimaev. In a recent interview, Nikal has also expressed his desire to face boxing star of the moment, Jake Paul, famous for putting Dana White's top fighters to sleep. It will remain to be seen if any of these fights are awarded to Nikal.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about as far as kidding, but I feel like that's a good matchup for me. He's obviously a high-level grappler, a high-level fighter. He's one of the top fighters in not only in his division but in the UFC. So I have a lot of respect for his skills, but I also know what I'm about. So yeah, at some point I'm making my UFC debut, right? Like, he's probably fighting for the title soon. So am I going to get that fight? Probably not, but I'm ready to go, and it will happen in the future, and I'll be more than prepared then.
If that's the case, then I'll take him. If not, then give me Logan Paul. UFC debut, me versus Logan Paul. I think, I know he has some skills. If we can't do it in the UFC, let's do it in the WWE. I'll meet you in the ring.
You said you want to fight by the end of the year. I think all of us want to see you fight again before the end of the year. You called out a Swedish guy who has a hard time making weight. I believe you're talking about Khamzat Chimaev. Can you confirm that that's the name?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's not too many Swedish dudes that can't make weight. So, that being said, for sure.
When did you know that was going to be the call out?
I'm ready to go on site at any point. He obviously is too. So, he's a guy to me that I see at the top of the game right now, and that's where I want to be. He's a guy that has good wrestling, good grappling. I'm a guy that has good wrestling and good grappling. That might be a little understatement. But yeah, it would be an exciting fight for me. And obviously, he's a game opponent, so I'm not sitting here acting like I'll walk through that guy, but he's a guy that I see myself fighting at some point in the future.
UFC Fight Night Dern versus Xiaonan main card. UFC Fight Night will take place on Saturday, October 1st at the UFC Apex Center in Las Vegas and will bring us the following fights. In the main event, we have a strawweight bout between number 5 ranked Mackenzie Dern and number 6 ranked Xiaonan Yan. In the co-main event, we have a welterweight bout between Randy Brown and Francisco Trinaldo. Then, Raoni Barcelos versus Trevin Jones in the bantamweight division. Number 12 ranked Sadiq Youssef versus Don Shainis in the featherweight division. A catchweight bout between John Castañeda and Daniel Santos. And Mike Davis versus Vyacheslav Borshev in the lightweight division. That's all for today, guys. If you want to know the latest UFC news, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell, and click the like button so you don't miss any details about the upcoming fights. Thanks for watching. We will see you soon.